Good morning. Just wanted to take a minute and talk about some things that I've been going through and some things that I've been dealing with, because I know that it affects a lot of people who have experienced religious trauma in their lives. And I think we're all collectively going through a lot of the same things and a lot of the same pain simultaneously as we watch the story unfold around the new administration and the changes that are taking place and the things that are starting to trickle out and the executive orders that have been signed over the last few days have been incredibly triggering for me, and I'm sure for many other people who have experienced religious trauma. I think the thing that I felt the most over the last few days is it feels like over the last, let's say, decade, but probably longer than that, but my healing journey has really taken place over the last decade. And it feels like we've made a lot of progress. I've seen different laws enacted. I watched gay marriage take place. So many different things that I felt like we were moving in the right direction, moving away from that Christian nationalism dominated environment that we've seen for so many years. And I've rejoiced with those that I love, and I've rejoiced with my friends, and as we've celebrated these milestones and watched as there's been a shift towards acceptance and a shift towards inclusion, and it just felt like we were starting to be able to catch our breaths and be able to breathe and feel a sense of calm and a sense that things were starting to be made right in the world. And over the last few days, especially, I have just struggled with this overwhelming sense that all of that progress has been taken away, and everything that we've worked and we've strived and we've fought for has suddenly just come crashing down, and it feels like 1950 all over again, or as I believe the president said, he wants to take it back to 1790. So I know for queer people, people of color, minorities, immigrants, this is a really hard and difficult and very painful time. And I don't think there's anything anybody can do or say in a video that can take that away or make that better. But I just wanted to talk about a few things that have helped me a lot over the last few days, and where I've been leaning in versus allowing myself to fall apart. I have found strength in specific things and in specific ways. And I think the first one is just to check out when I need to. It wasn't that long ago that we as a society, or we as a species, I guess I should say, we didn't have a lot of access to global information. What mattered was the things around you, your close neighborhood, your family, your friends, those you interacted with on a daily basis. And we didn't have this global scale of information bombarding us all of the time. And I've read numerous articles about how that has affected us, how we're stuck in a fight, flight, or freeze, and that cortisol level stays high for long periods of time, which is not how we were designed, which causes inflammation, deterioration in health, and so many things. And I think for me, I've caught myself since leading up to the inauguration in the last few days. It's really easy to get sucked in because that's what's on the news. And if you go to a restaurant, it's usually playing. If you go to the gym, it's usually playing. And we're just bombarded with what's happening. Social media, every single post, every pop-up on my phone is news related. And it's all about that. And the news relies on us staying activated so that we will continue to come back and keep watching it. So the first thing that I have really found for me is I check out when I need to. The day of the inauguration, January 20th, I completely went silent on social media. I took social media off of my phone. I took the apps off of my phone, off of my iPad, and I checked out and I unplugged and I took my dog and we went to a dog beach and I spent the day in nature. And there was a overwhelming sense of peace and calm just connecting with nature, because nature doesn't care. The ocean doesn't care who's the president. The sunshine doesn't care who's the president. And I was really able to step away from what could have been a really chaotic and painful day. And I was able to just really sink into being present and being grateful. Gratitude always helps lower those levels of cortisol and lower those levels of fear. And I spent the day in gratitude. But I went to my last appointment with a client and I'd had a great day and I was really grateful. And I climbed into my truck to go home, plugged my phone in to use the GPS. And the first thing that popped up was, President Trump pardons all of the January 6th participants. And immediately the rage and the feelings and all of that came back. And so while being able to check out and be in nature gave me this great sense of peace and calm and gratitude, and I was really able to work through it. The second I was bombarded with it, all of those feelings were reactivated. And it gave me, I guess I just begin to understand, like, no matter how hard I try, I can't completely avoid the world. I can't completely avoid the news, but I can limit the amount of time and energy that I allow them to pull from me. So I've really been being extremely careful about how much I engage, how much I allow to come in and thus take up my energy going out. And so being able to check out has really been important for me. The other thing that has been really helpful is I started the book by Gabby Bernstein called Selfhelp, and it's about IFS, or internal family systems, or parts work. And she gave us a 4-part check-in, or a 4-part process that has really been beneficial to me over the last few days. Because for me, so parts work has been really helpful in my healing journey, because a lot of the religious trauma happened when I was young. A lot of the religious trauma happened when I knew I was gay in a Pentecostal church and I knew I was different, and I was trying so hard to shut that down. And then coming out at 26 and completely going into being exiled from my whole life and having to recreate my whole life from scratch with little to no tools as far as like knowing how to navigate the world. So a lot of the trauma happened when I was young, when I was very young. And so a lot of those parts that are stuck, and when I hear things happening, like, Trump issued an executive order about trans people or whatever it is, the activation is those younger parts that feel helpless. And today, as an adult, I know that I am no longer helpless. There are things I can do. I can take action. I have control of my own life in most ways. But the fear that comes when I hear those, religious Republican statements, and it feels like Christian nationalism is taking over again. A lot of that activation is really, really, really young, and it brings back the pain from my childhood. So Gabby talked about the 4 steps process for checking in, and it said, 1, you make a choice. When I hear news that is painful or I feel is bad or activates the childhood fear in me, I have choices today. I can spiral out of control. I can fall back into addiction. I can drink the pain away, or do drugs to take the pain away. I have choices, but there are healthier choices, and I can choose to check in. And she said, when you check in, the second thing is just get curious. Instead of when you feel that anxiety and you feel that fear start to rise up in you and your body gets tense and you start to clench your teeth and your jaws are tight and your muscles are tight and everything starts to lock up. Instead of getting angry, instead of getting upset, instead of getting frustrated because it's your body's doing this or you're feeling things you don't want to feel, instead get curious. Get curious and ask those parts, what do you need from me? What would make you feel safe? How can I help you relax? When I first started working with my therapist in IFS, and we identified, the inner child and starting to reparent the inner child, the thing I would say so many times is, why won't he just sit down and shut up? Like, he's ruining my life. He's making things so difficult. This anxiety, it's hard to navigate. And one thing she brought out to me is, she said, you're parenting that inner child the way your parents parented that inner child, which caused the trauma in the first place. As a kid, I was always told, I'm too much. I need to stop talking. I talk too much. Kids need to be seen and not heard. Don't ask so many questions because I said so. Or when I was feeling big emotions, I would get things like, I'll give you something to cry about. And so I was not parented in a way where I was able to express the pain or the fear or whatever it was I was feeling at the time. I was just told to sit down, shut up, and be silent and stay out of the way. And when I went to parent that inner child, I parented him in the way I was parented because that's the only role modeling I knew for parenting. So I often just wanted that inner child to sit down, shut up, be quiet, stop ruining my life, stop always being anxious. Why do you wake me up at 5 a.m.? But when I started to understand and gain the knowledge that I have the choice to check in and then be curious and say, hey, I call him little Joey because I was called Joey when I was a kid, but hey, little Joey, what do you need from me today? And then I just get silent and I let him speak. And it's often the same things I said when I was a little kid. Just listen. I wanted somebody to hear me. I wanted somebody to acknowledge, I'm really scared right now, or I'm really excited right now, and I'm sorry that I talk so much, but I can't stop talking about whatever it was. And I just wanted so bad for a grown-up to acknowledge what I was feeling or what I was saying, but I always felt like I was in the way, or I always felt like it was best if I would just go away, or I would shut up, or I wouldn't talk so much. And in today's climate, political climate, it's so easy for those little parts of us to get activated. And we're so busy. The grown-up Joe is so busy, like working every day, paying bills every day, trying to get to the gym every day so I can stay healthy, like trying to check off the list of all the things that I need to do today to be a grown-up. That when the anxiety of the little kid, when I hear an executive order has been released and then the little kid in me is like, oh, this is it, this is the end. And my body starts to freeze and I start to get super tense and I start to get nervous. My first reaction or my initial reaction is usually like, I don't have time to deal with this today. But that little kid is needing a little bit of my time. And if I'm willing to get curious and I'm willing to check in and I'm willing to take those few minutes and say, what can I do to help you? It's often such a quick process now that I've done it for several years now, of just assuring that little kid that I'm okay. We're okay. I'm an adult now. I've got you. You're going to be heard. You're going to be seen. And it just so quickly starts to alleviate some of that stress and that anxiety that starts to rise up in me when I hear these things. And that is kind of the third thing. It says the third step is to compassionately connect. Instead of that, like, we don't have time for this right now, or you're too much, or a lot of the things that we tell ourselves. And most of the time, the things that we have, the inner dialogue that we have with ourselves and our parts and our younger parts, are the same dialogue that they heard from our parents, who were traumatized kids in adult bodies doing the best they could most of the time. But we tend to talk to ourselves the way that we were parented and talked to as children. But instead, we can connect with compassion And compassion towards younger parts goes so far. And when I hear things coming from the news or that activate me, I can give myself compassion and say, I understand why you feel this way. I understand why trans people are afraid. I understand why you as a queer person are terrified of what's coming and what's happening. And then Gabby in her book gave 8 C qualities of your higher self. And she said, when you search for those, when you see those 8 C qualities, you know that your higher self is leading the way. And those 8 qualities of self is confidence, calmness, creativity, clarity, curiosity, courage, compassion, and connection. Those C qualities, as I've started to look for them in the last few days, as I've revisited IFS and I've started to listen again, and I've started to look for when I feel confident, or when I feel just those moments of calmness, or creativity, or clarity, or curiosity, or courage. When I start to feel those 8 C qualities of self, I remind myself, even though the parts are loud, even though the parts are afraid, you're still connecting with that core self that is the adult version of Joe, who has done so much work and who has done so much healing. And I'm able to connect compassionately with those parts and remind them that we're not 4 years old and stuck. We're not 7 years old and our parents aren't going to beat us. I remind myself that there's an adult in control of the situation now who has the knowledge and the compassion and the courage to make the right decisions for me. And I was listening to a video today by Abraham Hicks, and she was talking about her formula for raising vibration and the let's say it better. And she randomly, a lot of my videos, I just trust the universe to send me the right thing at the right time. But the video was saying, she started with the statement, I wish the 2 parties could just get along. And then she said, I can say that better. And she said, I wish the 2 parties would work together to bring about better change. And she said, but I can say that better. And she kept adjusting the way that she was saying it. And she ended with, though the 2 parties seem like they can't come together and they can't agree on anything and they can't work together, I know that the universe has my back and it guides me to manifest exactly what I need every single day, regardless of what any political party says or does. And I thought that was so wonderful and powerful. I am currently listening to the audiobook, How We Learn to Be Brave by Bishop MarrianeEdgarBudde. And she is the bishop who stood behind the platform and asked Trump to have mercy on the communities that were the most vulnerable and afraid during his return to power. And her book is so fantastic. But I loved one of the things she said. She said, I don't so much know that I can say that I'm being called to be brave. But she said, I do feel called to join the ranks of those who stand in courage. And that was so touching and so moving to me, because some days I don't feel brave. Some days I'm in survival mode and I feel like I'm just doing everything I can to survive. And I feel so attacked, and I feel like this administration is coming for all of my friends and all of the people that I love, and it's coming for me and my rights as a queer individual. And sometimes I feel powerless. I feel like I don't know what to do next, or I don't know how to fight back in a way that is helpful. But I can join the ranks of people who are standing in courage. I can spend my money in places that morally support the change that I want to see. Just like buying Bishop Budde's book. I can do things to help those who are taking big stands that I don't quite know how to make myself. And I can continue to be the best version that I can be. But when the anxiety gets high and when things seem to feel like they're spiraling out of control in a lot of ways, and everything, this big information is coming at me, and I'm like, I don't know how to respond to this. I don't know what to do with this. I have found a few ways on a day-to-day basis by doing the check-in with my IFS, by checking out, not taking in unnecessary amounts of news, because there's just things that are out of my control. There's things I can't change. And if I overload my system and I start to break down, then I'm of absolutely no value to anyone else or myself. So I'm really trying to limit that and check in, and I'm acknowledging those little moments. And the last thing I'll say is I was fortunate enough to be gifted access to MarrianeEdgarBudde's the GodZone course. And the last module that I watched, and I'm watching a lot of it catching up, but the last module I watched, she said, let joy interrupt your sadness, and let pleasure interrupt your pain. And I heard it in passing. It didn't feel profound in the moment. But the following day, I was having a very not good day. I was just so frustrated because it's so easy. Like, we're having a great day. You know, things are going our way. Work's going great. Everything's going good. The bills are paid. There's no huge stressors. And bam, it pops up on your phone. The current administration just issued X, Y, Z, whatever it is, and we're immediately activated. And our first thought is, that ruined my whole day. That interrupted everything was going so good, and then I had to see that. But I loved the introduction of the concept that when things aren't going great, we can let joy interrupt our sadness. And yesterday I was having a not great day, and I had given myself the self-talk of all feelings are data. And so I accept this anxiety and I accept this sadness as data. And I checked in, like I talked about. What are you trying to tell me today? What do I need to hear today? And I was letting those parts talk. But in the back of my mind, I could hear Melanie say, let joy interrupt your sadness. And towards the end of my day, a surprise friend reached out and said, hey, do you want to hang out? And I had ended up having the most magnificent evening, just hanging out, and we laughed hysterically forever, and spent some quality time together, and just had such a great time. And before, I would have said, I'm having a really bad day today. I think I'm gonna call it a day, and I'm gonna hang out with my pup, and then I'm gonna go to bed early, and we'll try again tomorrow. But I could just hear that voice in the back of my head say, let joy interrupt your sadness. And so I said, let's do it. Let's hang out. And ended up completely turning the day around and having the best day ever. So when a news flash or information or whatever it is interrupts your great day, and you start to feel anxiety and you start to feel overwhelmed and you think, I've got 4 years of this. I was thinking to myself the other day, I'm going to be 49 when this administration is complete. I refuse to give them the rest of my 40s. I won't do it. I'm going to make this the best decade of my life. I just turned 46 yesterday. This is going to be the best year of my life. I'm going to manifest it. I'm going to make it happen because I refuse to give them that power. But when you're having that amazing day and then something hits and you're like, oh man, or you wake up and you're like, I'm gonna make this a great day, but then you have crippling anxiety and your parts are all loud and the little kid is terrified. as you go through the day and you're feeling those feelings, and it's so important that we're able to do that, and you're processing and you're listening and you're doing all the things, don't forget that if we let it, joy will interrupt our sadness and pleasure will interrupt our pain. When Melanie and Lair said that, it changed so much inside of me. And it gave me so much strength and courage, and it totally changed my whole trajectory of yesterday. And I woke up today and I was just in such a great mood because I had such a great night last night. And it's all because I let joy interrupt my pain and my anxiety. So I hope this helps. I hope it resonates with someone in some way. More than anything, it's a great reminder for me that as I move through the next XYZ amount of time with this current administration, I have tools in my toolbox to keep me happy and healthy and safe. And I can make the choice on how much I receive, how much it affects me, what I do when it affects me, and always be on the lookout to get ambushed by joy. If you look for it, it'll always happen. Have a great day.